At Blackfoot Communications, our mission is to connect people, businesses, and communities, bringing a world-class fiber network to homes, communities, and businesses of all sizes ensures Montanans have access to fast, reliable, and secure internet and phone services. Are you ready for fiber internet? To find out if fiber is coming to your area, visit goblackfoot.com/readyforfiber. Connect to more with Blackfoot Communications.
All right, I hope everybody got enough rest yesterday. I got home about 5 a.m., so it's a quick turnaround for this team, but we do take Sundays off, so our guys were able to rest a little bit on the flight, but then sit around yesterday and certainly enjoy what we thought was a really good victory against a really good team on Saturday night. And it didn't come easy. I think we made a collection of plays for that game, and then they did as well, and we made a collection of mistakes, and they probably did as well. And I think what was rewarding, I think, for our coaching staff was to think or to look at it and think physically we had the better side of that coin as far as how it played out in the fourth quarter, and that's a tribute to not just the play on Saturday, but the work our guys do in the off season, to work with Coach Herron, from the winter through the spring into the summer, and then really what they continue to do in season. We really try to maintain in that weight room as we go through the season, and I think that showed up. We had a couple guys, step into positions they hadn't been in, namely Ryan Larkin and Miles Jackson, and was pleased with how they performed in a new role. And that's what we need. This team needs guys to be able to step in there, and when the lights are shining, they got to be able to perform. And those guys did a good job of that. But really pleased with that victory, because it didn't come easy, and I'll say it again, I think that was a really good team that we were able to beat on Saturday night. So as we look forward, another challenging opponent on the road, another top 10 team on the road, and that's the one that's in front of us in Idaho, a team that we did not play last year, but we did play in 21. Coaching staff since 21. They've obviously had a lot of success these last 2 years under Coach Eck. Very prolific on offense, and I think they have played some really good defense at the same time. They definitely have some weapons, on that offensive side that catch your eye. There's no question about that, and they do have the advantage of coming off a bye week here, but all at the same time, we're all one opponent at a time, and we got to work on them this morning. It'll take another great effort by us throughout the week, and then our execution, I certainly hope, continues to improve when it comes to Saturdays. But pleased with where we're at this point of the season, and we need to stack up another good week, not only day to day, but then that performance against Idaho on Saturday. So with that, I'll open it up.
John and Tommy get weekly audit from Big Sky Securities. Just looking back at film, reflecting on their performances.
Yeah, I think you mentioned John. I think his play really turned a tide in that game, but that was the only play he made. I think John's been really steady for us all season long, has gotten more and more play as the season's gone along. He's been rock solid, and he's been a guy that's made a handful of plays at the same time. And in that particular play, that interception, that pick six, really shifted the momentum in that game, and so very deserving on his end. And then, for Tommy, I think the things he did through the air, and then on the ground, and then scoring the 2 touchdowns, he was able to garner that honor. But I think he's back, and I think we felt like that out of the Cal Poly game. Obviously, we're using both guys, and I think they both had an impact, him and Sean, on the outcome of that game, and that's likely how we'll continue to move forward.
Is there any update on Danny?
Yeah, Danny will be out. An extended period of time now, and what that means. Are we talking, a month or so? I guess time will tell. But he, it was an elbow injury. It was obviously serious enough. They took him to their tent to get that sorted out. Not season ending, not surgical, but we'll see how fast he can heal.
Any other injury updates on Lavelle and Derek Brown?
Yeah, speak to Derek. He re-aggravated a previous injury, and I think we'll get that evaluated through these next couple of days, what that's going to mean long term, and short term for that matter, I guess. But we got to do what's best for him. He certainly went out there and with the mindset he was going to play, and it just didn't feel right. But he aggravated that during the course of the week, and it was a previous injury aggravated, not a new injury. And then Lavelle also made the trip, not with this absolute intention that he was going to play on Saturday, but just so he could continue to improve. And I know I said he was day-to-day last week. I would say that's the same. We don't have to press it necessarily, but we'd like to see him turn the corner this week.
And then Taco back.
Yeah, Taco's back. I guess there was some outside hope that he maybe could play last week, and then that didn't happen. But he's been cleared to move forward now and stabilize the punt return game. Beyond stabilize it, I think what he was able to do last year was impactful throughout the season, and so to have that element back will be great. And then the strides he was making offensively in the spring were evident. So to have him back as a weapon on offense will be, I think, a big boost. And with us having 4 games remaining, we'll be able to preserve his red shirt at the same time.
Yeah, and the silver lining with both of he and Caden going down, I mean, like you mentioned, the 4-game red shirt.
Yeah.
So is that something both plan to do then, I would assume?
Yeah, and that's just where it's at right now. If he had played and we'd had 5 games, that they hadn't changed the rule, we'd had to figure that out, but we don't at this point. And yeah, Caden has happened with 2 games, so that'll be the case for him too.
I was just saying, any update on JT Reed?
Yeah, JT's been a tricky one. We've never really got him, going back to the fall, in any kind of full practice mode. And that being said, I think there's still some hope that could happen. So we haven't ruled him out for the season. It would be great to get him back to continue to solidify, that group. And obviously JT was a really good player for us last year. So still working through that. I should mention Lane. I think Lane is close. Lane will be practicing more and more this week. I think we're hopeful that Lane Sumner could be back on that field potentially this week. And I think, as an experienced guy, whether that's offense, special teams, that'll definitely give us a boost as well.
You mentioned Elijah.
No, Elijah, he went down the last play of the Cal Poly game. And he come this time last Monday, it was still kind of yet to be determined. So again, he's a non-surgical scenario that will be some weeks, but it isn't season ending.
Looking ahead to Idaho and their offense, I've got McCoy and Hatton and Woods. I guess what have you seen from them and their offense?
Yeah, let's start with McCoy. The successful freshman of the year season that he had last year. I think he's continued to live up to the expectations that were set upon him. Multi-dimensional player at the quarterback position. He's capable of making all types of plays, meaning the drop back, hit your back foot and throw it with authority. He can do that. He can get the ball in his hand really quick. The unscripted throws downfield where he extends plays, eludes pressure, keeps his eyes downfield, and then they don't do it a lot necessarily, but the design quarterback run game is part of what he can do as well. He appears to be a guy that's got a lot of just feel and moxie, and he's a pretty calm character back there. I mean, especially to play like he did as a freshman last year, but then, like I said, he's been able to continue to back that up. And typically your quarterback is what drives it, and I think that's the case with them. However, they have more weapons, and handing the ball off to Woods, I think has proven to be very successful this year. He's over 6 yards a carry, powerful. He has good speed. I think he appears to be like a complete package as far as the running back goes. you know, and then they have, I think 3 receivers, you know, led by Hatton and Jackson that are, you know, probably as good a trio as there is in our conference. And they're all a little bit different. You know, Hatton's all over the field, great body control, great size, great route runner, great hands. I mean, I think all those things. Jackson plays in the slot. He's a threat, you know, down the field, handing the ball off in the return game. You know, and then the Trainer's the other one that a longer version on the outside that can really get behind people. So, you know, it's not a deal. You know, you look at Hatton's success, Hatton's numbers where you can say, okay, we're just going to put all this focus on him. I think, you know, they're well-rounded as far as the receiving core.
Yeah. And then the other side of the ball, I was seeing, you know, they have one of the top scoring defenses, one of the top just even yardage allowed to. What have you seen from that side?
Yeah, I think a very active group. You know, they've been good against the run. I think that's, you know, where those numbers typically go in your favor when you can be good against the run, and they've done that. They've played quite a few guys up front. You know, nothing crazy with their schemes, so that usually tells you they know what they're doing. They're doing it at a fast rate. Their linebackers and their safeties are very involved in stopping the run, and they tackle well, and they can do that in part because they can cover well enough on the outside in their estimation, and I think that's accurate. So you know, sound defense that flies around and tackles well, and they've been able to, you know, stack up enough tackles for loss or disruptive. I think you know, a very organized get after you type of defense, I guess, and that's you know, to their credit, kind of, you know, being able to shift gears you know, from the previous. And they've really turned over their personnel quite a bit. I think that's the one thing, you know, what I think we thought we saw a pretty talented group in 21. They gave us all we wanted, and they've turned that group, especially on the defensive side, over quite a bit. So it's a credit to their recruiting, their development through these first couple of years.
Yeah, and I guess speaking to that and just you know, such you know, transition there. And I don't know, did you guys cross over when he was at South Dakota State, or were you already?
You know, we've known each other. He was coaching, boy, Winona State in particular back when I was at NDSU. So those coaches off that stuff would come to our camp. So I've known him back to those days, but never crossed over because I think he was at Western Illinois and we'd already left, and then South Dakota State we'd already left. But I've worked with guys that have worked with them, so I feel like we have known each other for quite some time.
And then I guess just in taking over this program, what have you thought of it? Just the first year and a half or so?
Yeah, impressive. You know, and he had spent some time there as a younger coach, so I think he knew the potential. I think that certainly helps. He had seen certainly the execution of what their ascent at South Dakota State, you know, and not that they're doing it exactly like Stig had been there for a long time, but I'm sure he learned some things there, even, you know, under Coach Nielsen at Western Illinois, that, okay, this is how, when I get my opportunity, I want to implement things. And, you know, I know from the start, I think he felt like, and he said it was a sleeping giant. And you know, I think with Idaho's previous success prior to their move up to FBS, and then just being at FBS period and coming down, there's a lot of elements that were there, or that, you know, and you know, it seems like he's been the right man for that transition.
I forget if you mentioned the kind of the reason for moving Miles to nickel. Does it previous experience that position? Anything else specifically?
Well, I think he's had a few cracks at nickel, so there was experience there. You know, and ultimately you're trying to get your best guys out there. I know we had Andrew play some nickel early in camp, but then Andrew's really, you know, I think solidified himself at the corner position. So, okay, what's the next move you make? And the move we made was to put Miles in there, and again, calling on that previous experience, but then also, you know, feeling like Miles has done some really good things even at the corner position. There's certainly overlap. It's not entire overlap by any means. Much more going on the closer you are to the box, and you know, felt like Miles did some really good things in that game. But then I think there's some things within that game I know he can improve upon too, and is more than capable of.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up, all the way up. I'm all the way up, I'm all the way up. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. Shorty, what you want? Shorty, what you need? My niggas run game. We ain't never got what you need. Shorty, what you want, I got what you need.
And then Brendan, obviously missed a couple field goals in this game. Can you kind of maybe what was some of the issues there and ways that anything just to do with that?
Yeah, I think look at where we're at right now. Field goal wise, we're 6 of 10. 2 games where he's missed 2. Weber in this game, as far as the way it goes down. I think both those games had a near miss that's still a miss. I thought he hit that first ball fairly well. It was just slightly wide right, and then in both those games he's missed one before the half. And in this particular one, he got 2 cracks at it. Didn't hit either ball very well. I will say, that those misses aren't consistent with what practices look like. And we go live in practice. Our defense comes after us. I know the end game though, we got to make those field goals, and in particular right now, we're 1 of 4 from 30 to 39. You're going to live with some misses that are deeper. But inside of 40, we got to be able to count on those points. So, we'll continue to work at it. I don't see, Brennan is an excuse maker. That's not it. He's doing all 3, and however that's taxing. It's not like, I think that's what's weighing on him. He's missed a few kicks. And when we haven't maybe kicked as much in 7 games, those misses become a little bit more glaring, and but we're gonna need his production, and he has been very productive in the other 2 areas that we're asking him to be himself. He's been a factor in the kick game, and we haven't punted a whole lot, but he's punted quite well. I did think, for whatever it's worth, I thought all his extra points in that second half he hit really well. So that was a positive spin on just the reaction to what happened for the halftime. And we just got to be able to move on there like any other position, but our production there has to improve.
One more for me too. I mean, that 21 game was Tommy, I think, scored 3 touchdowns that game. It was kind of his first real big breakout as far as a big role. Do you kind of look at that game in hindsight, or even at the time, and think, hey, this is kind of, we might have a little bit more here? Or was Tommy already kind of doing that in practice and things like that?
No, well, I think it's twofold. That game with Isaiah going down before the half, and at the time, I would say Matt's struggles, it was apparent that we probably have to look at doing some things some different ways. And so Tommy's role, I guess, as far as how we were using him in all sorts of ways, he was probably still covering kicks at the time, covering kicks, playing some receiver, but then being able to do some things at the quarterback position, allowed us to win that game. And it probably set the stage more for us to be able to make that move out of the last regular season game more than it did anything else. He had established some success, and we were trending in a certain way, with Matt at that point in time. So yeah, I guess, you think I hadn't thought about that at all, quite frankly, but that was kind of the start of it for Tommy.
Anything else in the room? Coulter, do you have anything?
Yeah. Hey, Coach, couple for me. First of all, I just wanted to ask you just about Idaho being back in general. I mean, it's been several years now, but just the fact that they got it rolling a little bit. I mean, it seems like everybody around the league is aware of that and thinks it's good for the conference. What do you think?
Yeah, looking at history, they're a really strong program, and they made that move up, I'm sure, because of how strong they were. And they had some success at the FBS level, and I know we faced them at Wyoming when they were still FBS, and they gave us all we could handle. I take that back. They were maybe 1 year removed from FBS, but they were, they had talent. You knew that, and whatever happened with the move down, the transition down, that's a challenge. It's not like you move down and there's not a lot of precedent to that. You move down and it's this instant success. So, you have the coaching change. You certainly have some talent on that roster. I think Coach Eck obviously had a good sense for success at the FCS level. There's a lot of pieces in place. I'm certain there's a lot of people that followed that program for many, many years, that want to see this transition down, and didn't want to see the transition down, but with the transition down, wanted to see the success that they'd had prior to, I guess. So, it appears a lot of pieces in place for them to do things the right way. So yeah, I think to have an invested Idaho Vandal football program is good for the conference, and I'm sure it was good back when they were rolling in the 80s into the 90s.
The last time they played a couple weeks ago, it was sold out, rocking in the Kiwi Dome. So, I mean, what do you do to sort of prepare for that? And I mean, what's it like for you guys when you go on the road? Because you guys are so used to playing in front of those types of crowds at home, but maybe a little bit more rare on the road.
Yeah, and and I think, not having been personally been in there, I think you got to anticipate all those smaller domes, whether it's thinking back to the Uni Dome or the Dakota Dome in Vermilion, what the Alaris Center could be like, and certainly with the Fargo Dome. I mean, those places, when they're full, they're just going to be that much louder. So yeah, we got to practice for that. I think I'll say it, our failures at South Dakota State, we had to learn from that. It was tough lessons that day. We have to be able to respond to an electric atmosphere, a loud crowd that's against us, in a better fashion. I think it helps us that we have lived through that at least a little bit on that particular Saturday. And I think at the same time, relish playing in that kind of environment. Even going out to Sacramento, it was a good crowd. I know the setting there is different with the track and a lot of the covered stands on our side, but there's still a lot of people there on Saturday night. That's what these guys want to play in front of people. They don't want to go to a place and you're playing in front of a couple thousand people. You get a chance to play in front of packed crowds, whether it's home or away. That energy, that electricity is what college football in many ways is about. So, we look forward to the opportunity, but we need to be prepared for it at the same time.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Right down the road, pump it up, yeah.
Idaho offensively, is it similar to what they did at South Dakota State? I mean, did they do this same sort of hurry up and wait thing at SDSU like they do now these last couple of years at Idaho?
Yeah, I guess I didn't I wasn't at NDSU through Coach X years, but the one thing that I felt like South Dakota State did from afar was really adapted to their personnel well. They adapted to who was playing quarterback for them, what they had at running back, what they had at receiver, tight end, and certainly what they could do up front. And I think, that didn't start with Coach Eck, but it was a way they did things going back quite some time under Coach Stuggemeier. And Coach Stuggemeier is a defensive guy, but I'm sure he's given some tips, but also given some freedom at the same time through that stretch to his offensive coordinators. And it was apparent when Jason was calling it, they really adapted well. So that being said, I know, a bunch of these guys were on the roster when they got there. They were quite different, obviously, the offensive outfit that we saw in 21, but you take these pieces, you look at them, you got a quarterback like McCoy that can do so many things, you adapt to it. And there's the scheme part of it. There's how you get into your particular plays. There's tempo, all those elements you got to consider. But I think it's evident that they've done a really good job of not, adapting to what they had, but then also, continuing to bring in talent into the mix.
When it comes to an offense that can gash you with big plays, but also is so methodical and runs the play clock all the way down pretty much every snap, I mean, how do you sort of balance those two things defensively?
Well, we got to be sound. We got to get into our calls and be sound with our call, be aggressive at times, mix it up, give their quarterback, who's still a fairly young quarterback, as many things to think about as possible. and then just, play our tails off. And I think we've done a pretty good job through 7 games of guys doing their job. And when we haven't, that's when big plays have occurred. And that happened a couple times on Saturday night against Sac State. You give a chance, a team with talent, a chance to, get in space. Generally those guys are going to have success. And that happened a couple times against Sacramento. And we can't let that happen. If they're going to, move the ball a little bit, we're going to, have to make a play on first down. Getting these teams with really good quarterbacks off schedule, getting them in a 2nd and long is so important. And, you're going to give up some first downs. That's okay. They're going to be able to move the ball. That's okay. But as long as we make it really hard on them and they have to really be consistent, that's what we're after. So, elements of that throughout the season, and that's going to have to continue to improve as we play, an explosive offense like Idaho is.
And on the other side, what do you think of that matchup? I know they're leading the league in pass defensive yards allowed, but I mean, what do you think of just their front, and how do you think you guys match up?
Well, active, and I know James Newby, the transfer from Montana Tech, Helena native, has been as impressive as anybody. A really good body type to play that defensive end position. And then otherwise, I think they're playing a lot of guys, so they're fresh. Like I said before, I think their linebackers and safeties are active. They tackle well, and then they can cover well enough on the outside. So it's a good combination. I think they've fared fairly well against the run through the course of the conference season, and even in the preseason, which included a couple FBS opponents. And I just think they're playing really sound and rallying to the football, and not. They're not. You have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves, I guess, is probably the way I'd put it best.
And I wanted to ask you about just the composure of the offensive line unit. We've talked a lot about their execution and their talent, but just being on the sidelines a little bit on Saturday, so impressed with just how they seem so steady. I mean, they never seem to get too high. I know that's something you want out of your team, but how important is it to have that out of your offensive line? Yeah,
I think it's a group that can play with emotion, but not be very emotional. And that's important. I think that's due to their leadership, which, I think there's none of those guys are captains, but I think there's guys within that group that are very good leaders. And especially within that group, it's not like there's anyone that I look and say, well, that, even our younger guys in Omar and Connor, they don't ride that wave, where there's ups, there's downs, all that stuff. So I think there's just fundamentally, I think there's a lot of trust within that group. And, I think they know what's been really impressive to me, is they can come off the sideline and they can regurgitate those plays and then be real about it. Okay, what didn't go right on this particular play? What do we need to do on this, this particular, hey, we like this against these guys. You don't always get that out of a unit, and especially, collectively. I think they're seeing the game. That just tells you they're seeing the game out there really well. And there's this confidence that, I can tell Coach Johnson or Coach Housewright that, yeah, I missed this, but I might get this later. A lot of times guys don't even want to admit that on the sideline. So I think to your point, I think it is a calm but confident group that's really playing well and really come together. I think we made great strides last year, but we've taken it to another level, in this particular, game by game this year.
A couple more for me. National Tight Ends Day yesterday. Did you do anything to celebrate?
No, I did hear. I had just the NFL on in the background. I heard it a few times. I don't know where these things come from, but
me neither.
Yes, it's great to celebrate the tight end position.
Well, you guys got some good ones. I was so impressed with Ryan Lonergan, particularly just because that position. I mean, sometimes you got to flex in the backfield, and I mean, you can practice it, I'm sure, but putting your hand in the dirt and going heads up with the Mike linebacker is, probably an eye-opening experience. And it seemed like he really settled into that as the game went along. What'd you think of his performance?
Yeah, and credit to Ryan because those reps were going to Derek really for the most part through Wednesday. So he had to catch up on the fly. He was getting some of them, but he had to catch up on the fly on Thursday. We were hopeful that Derek could go, and he was pressed into it, and Ryan's continued to work really hard, battle through some things injury wise of his own, in our time here. But that's where you really appreciate a guy hey, he understands his role. He's played his role really well. Now his role just got expanded, and he went out there and played with confidence. Wasn't perfect, but played with confidence, kept going after it, and I think got more and more comfortable as the game went along. So obviously moving forward with the uncertainty with Derek, we're gonna need him. I know a guy we haven't talked about hardly at all is Hunter Provience, true freshman that, he's got to now step up a notch potentially too. I know he's the one, Rylan Schlepp's out for the season, and Hunter Provience is one that, could see some time, but we need that same response, even out of a young guy to go out there and say, all right, it's my time, and the coaches trust me, and I'm going to go after it.
There was one time early where Lonergan fired off, and he got the Sac State linebacker got the best of him, but then he got him back at least 3 times after that. So, I mean, what'd you think of just the response there, kind of doing it for the first time?
Yeah, that's we talk about that. Just being able to move forward, and I think our guys, you practice a lot, you get a lot of reps, spring, fall, through the week. You might get a handful of reps. Now you become sort of regular, essentially, like Ryan did. I think you understand that the game's not super complicated. It is faster to some degree, but you belong out there. Not all the plays are going to go your way. You got to kind of size up your opponents as you go. One play really has no bearing on the next play. You gotta think that way, and for that to show up for Ryan's, confidence and feel. A lot of playing that position for us is feel. I know early on he had a corner, I think, cross his face on a perimeter play, and didn't let that linger, I guess, in his mind, because what you don't want to be doing at that position is playing, with any indecision. You got to be aggressive and go after it. And I think Ryan really improved in that regard as the game went along.
And just his patience. I mean, he's a really highly regarded guy when he got recruited out of Bozeman High, and he's just kind of had to wait because he's got 2 really good guys in front of him.
Yeah, and that's I think that's what you want at every position, where guys are making their way, are continuing to build upon their own just experience and their own confidence. But if they do have guys in front of them, it's not going to break them. Ryan's done a really good job on special teams for us, punt and kick return, and really owned that role last year. Didn't get a ton of regular reps, was in there here, hit in the game here and there. Trayton and Derek played the whole season through. He's got a bigger role on offense. He's continued to build upon that special teams role, but sometimes it's purely patience. Sometimes it's just saying, hey, I'm a part of something way bigger than me. I love being a part of it. Here's my role. Here's what the coaches are asking me to do. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to do it the very best I can, and I'm going to be ready for that role to change. And I think we have, quite a few guys that you classify in that regard. And that's when you truly have a team. Because not everybody can be out there on Saturdays a whole bunch. Not everybody can get the acclaim, but they're all part of it, and they all play, a crucial role in what we're trying to accomplish. So, Ryan's a great example of that.
Thank you.
Oh, good. All right.
Thank you.
Do you have a DUI or misdemeanor conviction? If so, don't let your past hold you back. Hi, I'm attorney Dave Maldonado, and you may be eligible to have your record cleared today. Visit BigSkyDefender.com to see how.